Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second season of The High Table. And I have a special guest here. I wish you could have heard the conversations before we were recording. We may have a new podcast, French fries and good liquor. Who knows? Wherever the spirit may lead us, you never know.
That's right.
You just never know. So I met her, and we're going to talk about all this right here, okay? The pronouns and how we got to this point, and this is a moment of transparency, and this is a big step for me as well. And I had a learning curve when I first met you with some things I had to learn and what to say and what not to say. So I'm still learning along this journey, but I got to introduce Dahron Johnson. I met her. There I go again.
It's all right.
I met her at Nashville School of the Arts, and her son, Rowan, was a student. And this is when COVID in 2020. And I met the family online. We did the teams. We had to, teach them on Teams. And I went over to the house and I met the family. Beautiful family. They fed me. It was all good. They kept the appetizers covered. We ate in the garden, and then we started a friendship that's lasted going on 6 years.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and after Rowan graduated, he was a high-functioning young man with autism, has a love for landscaping and cutting grass.
I just got to interrupt you right there. And the first thing, we've just gone through, I know this may air a little bit later, but we'll time check it here and say that we just came out of the ice storm.
Yes.
And we were in a hotel for 6 days.
Wow.
I don't think Rowan would have loved it when it was 35 degrees in our house.
Oh my goodness. No, I don't think he would have either.
And but the very first thing he said when we pulled into the driveway and got out of the car back to the house once the power was finally back on was, I know we can't do it today, but I really think we need to pick these sticks and branches out of the yard to help prepare for the 2026 mowing season.
Right.
So this is very much still an interest of his.
How about that? So you got to be Rowan at some point. Very smart, intelligent, handsome young fella, has a zest for life, and he has a perfect attitude anyway. Like, it's all good, man.
Yeah.
Just have a good time,
We all could learn a good Rowan lesson. The way that I often describe him is he is a lovely, loving, and lovable autistic young man. And if you know that and then hear the way that he's ready to laugh about almost anything, then you're good to go. Your day's made.
So let's start from the beginning. Now,
Sure.
Remember now, we want to follow the red lights.
Yep.
To make sure.
Thank you.
So let's talk about introduce yourself. First of all, introduce yourself right here.
So my name is Dahron Johnson. I am a clinically trained chaplain. I've worked in healthcare, primarily hospice, for the last 18 years or so. As we've established, I'm one of the moms for Rowan, a lovely 19-year-old young man, and I do a fair amount of advocacy work in the community as well. So I'm a commissioner on the Metro Human Relations Commission, and I'm also the Nashville co-chair of the Tennessee Equality Project.
Wow, that's a lot.
It keeps the days full, especially right now while legislature is in session. It's a lot of getting up early, going to bed late, and bouncing between a lot of different spaces in between.
Right. It keeps you busy.
It keeps me it keeps me hopping along. Let's put it that way.
That's a good thing.
That's right. I can't get in too much trouble if I'm flying around between places all the time.
That's a good thing. So, talk about where you're from. Let's talk about where you're from.
Sure. I was born in Buffalo, New York. My parents were both at the university up there getting their doctorates. I was adopted at birth. This was 1970, so it was a hot minute ago. And my parents found out just hours really before I was going to be coming their way, that I was coming their way. And one of the things we were talking about before the lights came on is that was the moment when my name was decided, and that funky spelling with a H in the middle was figured out. My father and grandfather are both Rhondas, believe it or not. And as they were trying to nail down all the basics, is there a crib? Do we have all the diapers, et cetera, et cetera? They also had to figure out this small thing about a name. And so my mom had a napkin from the diner that they were sitting at, and scribbling out variations of the letters in my dad's name, and landed on from RHONDA on DAHRON, Dahron. And as a matter of fact, Rowan's name is not spelled like the street here in Nashville, but it's actually spelled with another variation of those same letters. So from RHONDA to my name, DAHRON, and then to Rowan's, ROHAN. And we just weren't as smart as my mom, so we couldn't figure out what to do with the D, and had to get rid of that along the way. But then the last thing there is that from Buffalo, we moved pretty quickly to the south, to Georgia. My dad got a teaching position at Augusta College, which is now the University of Georgia at Augusta. But from that point, we skipped back and forth almost on a yearly basis between the North and the South. So from Buffalo to a small farm where my parents were renting a house in Kiners, Georgia, and then back to the North, and then back to the South, and back to the North, and back to the South. And so by the time I was 12 or 13, I had already collected as places I had lived most of the states on the East Coast, from Georgia up through New York. So I've lived in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, 3 different places in New York, including Long Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts.
So you're not afraid of the snow and the ice or nothing like that?
No, I mean, I'm glad that I still don't live in Buffalo.
Right.
But I try to take it in stride. I've been through some pretty crazy snows.
Yeah, I can imagine. I had a girlfriend in Syracuse, New York.
Okay.
Flew up there on a Tuesday night. It was raining. Woke up to 8 inches of snow.
Oof.
Blew my mind, and people was driving like it was, 100 degrees outside.
Yeah,
exactly. Freaked me out, and so it gave me first time in New York. Had no idea what was going on, so that was a good experience. So growing up in Buffalo, were you in the sports anything or?
Well, this was funny. I was actually thinking about this on the way over. So frequent watchers or listeners to this show will know the legend that is David Suddeth.
Stop it.
I mean, it's true. He can't stop me because I speak nothing but truth. Your record's still intact over there at Trevecca?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, okay.
They're never going down.
Yeah, see,
never.
That's
never.
what I'm saying. Now, I will just say that there was a point in my life where I was so infatuated with the game of basketball. Okay. I loved it more than pretty much anything. I would mow lawns with a old style push mower, early 80s, yard after yard after yard, no matter how big or how small, to earn money to go to Duke basketball camp. I went for 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
I was awful. I mean, I was beyond awful.
Awful good or awful bad?
Oh, no. I wish I could say awful good. I was awful bad. I had the worst form. I had developed this really bad mechanics of shooting, and I shot with my left hand, even though I'm right-handed.
Yeah, my goodness.
The only thing that I was good at, and I mean, at least I was at Duke basketball camp for this one, is I was good on defense, right? And if you're going to go to Duke,
you got to play defense.
They're going to drill you hard on defense. So at least I could recuperate some, competency points when I was playing D. But there was negative negative points coming to me when I was on the offensive end of the court. So it was probably a good thing when I picked up cycling in high school.
So you're an avid cycler?
Avid cyclist, and been racing since my late teens, early 20s. Started off with mountain biking, and I've done a bunch of road racing. I've never been particularly good at that. I've been kind of middle of the pack most of the time. And
Right.
pulled out a few wins here and there and some podium places, but again, nothing more than an avid amateur would probably take home.
That's impressive. I hate going to spin class. I hate it. That little seat, it destroys me.
Well, I have to say though, spin class and outside, they're a little different from each other because when you're outside, right, you're moving around a lot more, right? Because you're meeting the terrain,
Right.
and so you're gonna
adjustments.
scoot back a little bit when you're climbing, or you're
right.
gonna get up out of the saddle, right, when you're sprinting for the county line with your friends.
Okay.
And so I don't know. To me, it feels a lot different. I've got a swanky home trainer setup that I have at the house. I don't use very much, but that's another story entirely.
It's a clothes hanger.
Yeah.
I get it.
But even me, and I think a lot of avid cyclists would feel the same way. It's still different when you're inside, as far as how the seat feels, how the positioning feels, just how everything feels. If you're outside, I don't know, if nothing else, you got random untied dogs to distract you.
Preach. That is true. But that's kind of changed. I put this on my Facebook yesterday about our neighborhood used to have a dog named King. Every neighborhood around here had a dog. And King was a German Shepherd that they could not keep leashed up.
Oh, boy.
And so it just made me think, now you don't see random dogs running through the neighborhood. They're always on the leash, somebody walking them. But in the 70s and 80s, it always was a damn dog that would maul you. And nobody would, dogs stayed outside. They were angry. They was hot. They were starving. So when they see some fresh meat, they got to get it.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. I would say ask a cyclist if they feel the same way about how many dogs are tied or untied these days.
Okay.
But I will say that, to your point, back in high school, I actually commuted back and forth from high school on my bike a lot back then. And one of the ways that I would get to school in the morning is through the back roads in my neighborhood, which is a fairly suburban kind of neighborhood. And there's this one dog every time, every morning. I'm just waking up. I'm just starting. I don't want to be sprinting around or in a full adrenaline rush at like 7:45 in the morning on my way to school. But sure enough, every time. And on top of that, I will not name names, but it was owned by one of the biology teachers at my high school. And I approached her on this and said, you really need to tie up your dog. And of course, what did that teacher say? Oh, you just need to get to know it. As soon as you get to know it, it'll stop coming after you. And I'm like, but I'm not here to pet the dog. I'm here to be not late for your class. So if you would help me out by just keeping your dog in your backyard, I would appreciate it. But no, I was still doing sprints at 7:45 in the morning there. Every time by your house.
Damn dog. Damn dog. So you're in high school, you're in Buffalo, you're playing sports. And so how was high school? Like, were you a regular student? How were you with relationships with your friends?
I was a theater kid.
Okay.
I mean, we've already established that as much as I loved sports, my early love of basketball did not set me on a path to fame and fortune.
Got it.
And so I quickly realized that I was probably more of a theater kid. I mean, I was into cycling in the 80s. That kind of puts you in the theater kid crowd anyway, as far as sports go. Right. That's a theater kid sport on top of everything else. But I started life as an opera major. That's what I went to do after I left high school. So even before high school and middle school, I was in a children's choir that toured and went around the country, and then from there was able to sing quite a bit through high school honors courses.
Do you still sing now?
I sing some now. It's usually worked into, for those of you who have, for folks who've ever heard me in public spaces, I'll often reference songs or hymns, and sometimes I will then, actually sing the line itself when I'm in that moment. It just kind of depends on what the moment calls for.
Okay.
I'm going to pat myself on the back here a little.
As you should.
But when I had the opportunity to be the first openly trans person to speak from the floor of the Tennessee House during session, I was invited.
Hold on, time out. Well, for one, that took courage. Okay, the first of anything, that's a trendsetter. Okay, that took now I'm getting you back because you said all the legends. You just be quiet over there, and I'm going to give you your flowers because that says a lot about you and your stance about becoming who you feel like you need to be. And for the first time to be out front in front of a ton of strangers, first of all, I would think it would be intimidating, but you're a strong person. How was that in that moment? We're going to switch gears for a second because I'm all on you right now, buddy. Because you embarrassed me earlier, so now it's my time. Okay. So how was that, and where did that come from? Like, how did you get that opportunity to share your story?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for the applause button. I'm going to try to, for listeners, there is a sad trombones button too, and my sole goal during this podcast is to avoid the sad trombones button. Yeah, that's right. I don't want to be played off Price is Right style during this.
We got
you. So I'll just say that in that moment,
right.
I used that as an opportunity to kind of reference a number of different sort of music. Other people didn't realize it, but it was sort of important musical history moments in my own life where I sang a brief line from this choral work that had a big impact on me in high school, and then I referenced this hymn that I really love called Bring Many Names, and then there might have been a line sung from everybody's favorite Black national anthem.
Okay, absolutely.
But I did that because there are various points in my life that have connection with each of those songs. I served on the ministry team in a historically Black congregation for 7 years.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so...
Okay. I bet that was interesting.
Yeah, it was. It was indeed. But that opportunity came about because I had had the opportunity in another space to offer, in our city council, to offer the invocation and prayer there. And I was talking with one of our state representatives about ways that we might be able to demonstrate the normalness of trans folks.
Right.
And we had this representative had been talking about really trying to push some sort of affirming LGBTQIA plus legislation. As you may know, as others may know, it is not a welcoming place for a lot of different types of non-majority folks, whether that's queer folks or Black folks or women, or if you're Hispanic, if you're Latino. And I said to the rep while we were sitting at this table, I said, well, if we're just trying to figure out the normalness of our lives, why don't you have me doing something I do all the time, which is just offer prayer? And this was Afton Bain, and looked across the table at me, and Representative Bain goes, "Really? You would do that?" And of course, I immediately started regretting that I had put this on the table. But her legislative aide at the time said, "Yeah, I think it's just a matter of getting you on the schedule." And when I left the meeting, it was this idea that was floating out there, but there wasn't any real definition to it. But sure enough, like 48 hours later, I got the phone call that said, "Hey, we got you on the schedule for such and such a date." And from that moment, especially given, as I was describing, I wasn't trying to make a moment. I was really just trying to demonstrate, hey, I'm going to show up and do what I normally do. It was really about sort of meeting the moment that was made available to me rather than sort of making a big production of it.
Right.
And I sweated it up until the very last moment. I remember I had overwritten, of course, because you think you got more time to say things than you do. And I was at Representative Bain's desk before I walked up there, just striking out like 250 words, literally seconds before I went up there. And then it was go time, right? And luckily all that performance experience did benefit me, even though really it was mostly spoken. I did sing a little, but it was mostly spoken. But having been on stage, having had all that performance experience from when I was like 10 or 11, I just went into that performance mode where it was like, okay, show's on, you're on, let's go, let's do this. And well, I'll let others decide how well it worked, but I got through it because I'm here at the high table with David Sutter
Absolutely,
now.
that's right. So that's big in that moment. Okay, I'm gonna make us do something about that. So that's big in that moment, but let's talk. I want to hope that moment. I'm gonna put like a little spotlight.
Sure. Yeah.
But so now you're in high. I want to go back to high school.
Okay.
Are you feeling a difference in yourself in high school? Did you share it with somebody, or were you just kind of keeping to yourself? Because let me say this, because things have changed. I'm at NSA, and the freedom to be who you are. And that's what I love about NSA. You can be who you are, but you got to work your ass off in the classroom. Now, the workload is college level. You're going to work. So you can dress how you want to dress, look how you want to look, be who you want to be, which I love. The flip side of it is, regardless of what conservatory you're in, you got to work. Because I've seen them go to school all day, then go sing, don't get back to 10 o'clock at night, then got to be at school the next day. So it's rigorous at NSA.
Yeah.
It's rigorous. So how were you in high school? And when did you feel like you needed to make some changes or just thought about it?
It's such a great question and such an important question. I'd have to say that the first senses that I had, I'm just not at home in this self.
Right.
That the ways that I hear other people talking about me and how that resonates or feels totally disconnected with this body that I'm walking around with was actually pretty early. I would say around 9 or 10.
Wow.
And I wouldn't be surprised actually if, had we not been moving so much, that I might have had some consciousness around that a little bit earlier, because I think a lot of how we understand ourselves, and I'm kind of going to get into the weeds a little bit here,
That's fine.
but how we understand ourselves as people, as a guy, as a gal, as a black person, as a white person, as a combination of those things, has a lot to do with how we understand ourselves in relation to other people, right? My transness only stands out a lot in comparison to non-trans people, right? So it takes being around other folks for us to really understand just how different or not different that is. And it wasn't until I was 9 or 10 or so that we stayed in one place. We lived in one place for a while, that I was in the same school for more than a year at a time. And once I was in a situation like that, that's when I started going like, oh, something doesn't really fit here. So I don't seem to really fit inside this thing that I'm walking around in, and the ways that other people are describing describing me. And yet, to your point, this was the early 80s, right? We didn't have the vocabulary. We didn't have not just about transness, but heck, even about same-sex attraction, right? You couldn't.
Right.
Being gay, one is still used as a slur now and as a put down, but back then, I mean, that was one of the worst, right? People throwing around terms like that.
It was violent too.
Yeah, exactly.
Very violent. It's violent now. I'm not gonna say not as violent, but in the 70s and 80s, and I've done some research. It was a lot of violence, even death.
That's right. That's right. Which is an important part of the story, right? Because as we come through the 80s, we have the growing scare around the AIDS epidemic,
right?
Which was used to vilify, to monstrify gay men, and then transness, especially trans femaleness. That phrase would never been used in the first place. And then second of all, the ways that was talked about in the culture at large was really about sort of like a further monster type off of the already villainous gay male type, right? So it's just a subtype of an already subtype within the culture. So it's no wonder that somebody who felt differently in their own body, let alone differently about maybe their attraction to other people, they're not going to be very open about it. When you're so right to talk about the safety issue, because if you wanted to not just stay safe, but I think we really need to underscore, if you wanted to make sure that you stayed alive, then you were going to stay in the closet.
Right.
You weren't even really going to try to explore this. You were going to try to stuff it down, put it in the pot on the back burner, whatever you had to do, simply to be able to make it to the next day. And add to that, there was no real positive language in which to even describe this self. One of the best lessons I had from my parents, I think, was that they were so affirming of me, even when they didn't know this me, but they were so affirming of me. And yet, I didn't, that just begged the question to me, like, how could they be so positive about me when I don't feel at home within me? However, what that at least did for me, though, is it allowed me to realize that one of the most important things that I could do for myself is to frame myself and describe myself in something other than the negative.
Right.
Not to come out of the gate going, well, I'm not a monster, and I'm not a villain, and I'm not something that somebody you should be scared of.
You're trying to defend yourself.
Yeah, right, exactly. Who wants to start on defense?
Right, exactly.
Right? I wanted to be able to start with a positive I am statement. Mm-hmm. I am Dahron. I am a trans female, and that's that. That's normal, but at least it's a positive framing, and I'm not trying to have to backtrack and play defense on, hey, don't worry, I'm not the person who's going to attack you.
Right.
Which is what so much of that moment was, and sadly is becoming again now.
Right. And what I see now is, again, in my ignorance, okay, I haven't always been as easygoing. I just didn't know. And so one of the questions that I would ask is, okay, many people are not like myself that are understanding, okay? What is the plight of that community? We're going to be all over, Chris.
That's all right.
But what is the plight of that community as far as wanting a level of equality? I respect you who you are, you know I do, and I respect the community, but to try to say, well, trying to get the words right. I don't want to be disrespectful.
No. We're in. I want to affirm, and this is an important thing both for our conversation here,
right,
across the high table, but also in conversation with anyone, anywhere,
right.
Which is, if we approach each other with genuineness.
Right.
Right? I'm going to make some mistakes
Right.
along the way. There's a few places already today that I'm going, I should have phrased that a little bit differently.
Right.
I should have talked about others or described something about you or
Right.
even our own son a little bit differently in a way that affirmed his humanity a little bit, affirmed others' humanities a little bit better. I apologize for the missteps, and all I can say is I approach this moment with genuineness.
Mm-hmm.
I sense that in you as well, and we're going to let that genuineness do some work here, right? And allow that genuineness to build in some grace that we're just trying to understand each other.
And I do want to understand, and I think I got it. I think I'm ready now. Because you made me feel so much better. It's my only issue was initially, hey, you can be who you want to be. Mm-hmm. Why is it such an issue to tell the world, hey, I'm a trans person or I'm a gay person or homosexual? Just be who you are. Why such a need for acceptance when I think you're going to come across, or that community is going to come across with more people who's going to love you regardless?
Well, that's a great question.
It was a great question. I hate to pat myself in the back.
It was a great question.
It's a damn good question.
And it's a really important one, too. I would say that the history of non-majority communities, of put-down communities, they tell a lot of the same story. And that the lessons from one are hopefully not lost to the others.
Right. Okay.
So that I've just been writing some about this week, as a matter of fact, so that when I had the opportunity in my teens, I spent my dad was working hard to break down what small parts of the wall that he could on the most segregated hour in America, church on Sunday. Yeah. We had 3-4 churches in our denomination in the same city where my dad was a minister. 3 of them were historically black congregations. Ours was white. My dad followed in the footsteps of the person who had gone through the desegregation work that the church my dad was now minister of. Right. And he realized that had to continue. And what he did was actually create an exchange program, which sounds so crazy because we're just talking about another community across town. Right. But we also know, all of us, from lived experience, just how foreign that can feel for either of us on either side of the table. But what I recognized during that is that for all the kind of thoughtful, cerebral, I'll say disembodied, kind of almost spirit work of my dad's church, there was something that came through in my year plus in that church across town that came through the lived and learned history of being in a body that could be openly persecuted for simply showing up as it was. Right? And that balance of connecting with our spiritual selves while also attending closely to the reality of bodies that are actively hurt by the world. I mean, that resonated to somebody who was so fearful of what the world could do to folks. But we also know that we've also seen through history how when you've got folks that are putting you down because of your skin color, or because of your affectional orientation or your gender identity, the reaction to that is to say, but wait a second, I am good as I am. Whether that's the Black Pride movements, right?
Okay.
Black Power movements, fist in the air,
Right.
saying, no, we're good as we are. It's the same type of energy that comes from other communities saying, wait a second, we're good as we are as well too, and we should be able to claim that with the same type of pride and sense of internal goodness, internal greatness, giftedness as anyone else. And so I don't know if it's necessarily just wanting to raise a banner for ourselves for the sake of raising a banner for ourselves, though we both wanted to pat ourselves on the back a few times already, right?
Right,
So it's always good to give ourselves some roses every once in a while.
Absolutely.
But I think it's also, it becomes really imperative when you're in a society, when you're in a culture at a moment that is trying passively and actively to push you down, to make you feel like you are less than you are. And when you're being pushed down like that, it's so easy to lose one's internal sense of empowerment, of voice. And I wouldn't want to discourage anybody from saying in the midst of feeling like they're being put upon in that way,
right,
that they can't say, wait a second, no, I am me. This is who I am. This is who I look like in this body. This is what my skin is. And I am proud of that. Any and all of us should be able to do that. And that's a powerful lesson that I've learned from the Black community, from the Black church that I served in, from the Black church that I was able to be a member of in my teens, through that history of seeing Benjamin Chavis show up in eastern North Carolina to say that you can't poison the lands that our people live in because they are worthwhile people who deserve more than the literal trash that you're dumping in their backyard.
right.
They deserve flowers, not barrels full of radioactive waste. And when you're faced with that type of oppression, why should you not be able to say, I am a child of God. I am beloved by my family, by my community, by my Creator. And the rest of the world should know that.
Hey, listen, hold on. I did that jokingly a little bit, but I understand it now. I get that you deserve to be heard. And I think we all deserve to be heard. I think the issue is social media has turned dirty. Okay? And what I hate to see is the violence, the discrimination, the hatred, not even getting to know someone. We have a tendency to judge before we get to know. You know what I'm saying? And so, but I think the good part about being who you are is there is a small safe space in this era as well. This is in 1981.
That's correct.
Okay? And so you have advocates like yourself. We can sense your passion. Okay? You can ball your fists up. Don't hit me. Okay, please. Jesus
I'm not.
Christ.
I'm the most non-violent person actually there is.
Okay.
I don't even like using, I know you're going somewhere, but I'm just I got to say right now, for folks who heard that, I actually have a commitment to myself to not even use fight imagery in my own language as much as possible, because I believe so strongly in the power of claiming ourselves fully and positively, just as I was just describing, that should we want to make the best, most positive impression on the world, then we've got to be as forward as possible with the most positive, grace-filled version of ourselves. I don't know another way to put it.
Well, I understand that was my main question, and I got the answer to it. You know, I think that what I'm seeing now is I've seen young people commit suicide. You know, I've seen people struggle mentally. Let's talk about your mental health during that time of trying to figure it out. See, you're my age, so trying to compare the 80s to 2026 is like the 80s was a third world country, okay, when gas was $1. As opposed to almost, I worked in Franklin yesterday, and gas was a $3.45. But in Nashville, it was $2.45. You know what I'm saying? It's different. Let's talk about your mental health of, were you hiding it? Or did you confide in some friends? Or you was nervous? How were you mentally? And how did you get through your day to day with these feelings? I'm not going to say urges, but feelings on the inside.
Struggle. Yeah. Another solid question. Wait a second. Where's the applause button again? There's the applause button for David Suttis' question.
I'm on fire, ladies and gentlemen. I'm on fire.
I'm going to do it journalism style.
Okay.
And to say we're going to put the important thing right up top, right? Okay. Which is whatever my state of mind has been.
Okay.
The way that I'm able to engage with the world, the way that I feel about myself, the citizen that I am,
okay,
is 10 times more and better, 100 times,
wow,
unlimited times better now than it ever could be before. Again, I'm not even going to name the thing. If there is a part of yourself that other people recognized a little bit,
right,
but that you were trying to squelch and deny every single day, to try to disguise and mask, really to lie about, right? In the process of trying to stay safe,
right, absolutely,
and in the process of trying to stay not dead, right? They said, no. This guy dragged me. That's how I describe old me, right? This guy dragged me is the real me. I'm totally fine. Everything's hunky-dory. Coming up roses. Meanwhile, inside, you realize you're denying every actual truth about yourself. And you're having to almost the weight of that. And we all know how lies are, and we all know how trying to keep up untruths like that are, right? It becomes more intricate and heavier and more burdensome.
Right.
And there's more disguise to try to figurative disguise, to try to hide what to yourself feels more and more obvious every day. When I don't have to spend every day trying to maintain all of that, just the structure and the weight of it sitting on my shoulders every day, when all of a sudden I get to shrug all of that off, and again, I'm going to keep on coming back to this, to be able to straighten my back and fully claim the I am, who I am, here I am, I can do no other, all that energy, all that was used to support and carry all that weight that had been loading up on my shoulders, not just for a day or a year, but for decades. How could I not be better now? And so what I've tried to do since coming out is to use that abundance of energy that I didn't even realize I would have, because you don't realize how many matches you're burning and sustaining this disguised self, this other version of yourself. And I've just tried to use that energy in as many positive ways as possible.
Right.
Because back in my early 20s, I remember, there have been various points along the way, but I'd say one of the most formative ones was, I remember I was in this, you were talking about prior relationships. I was in a relationship with somebody in Richmond, Virginia. It went south. It wasn't so great. We had a bad breakup. I had left my opera program. I had been at Indiana. I was waiting tables for Fridays for like 70 hours a week.
Fridays.
Yeah.
Wow. That's stressful with this.
Boy. So you can see my life was not in a great place at this moment.
You was grinding.
Oh, my Lord. I was counting flair on people's suspenders back in the glory days of Fridays. Living in my car, trying to figure out a place to live after I broke up with my partner back then.
I've been there before.
Yeah. And there is a point, I remember I was trying to hit the reset button. I went back down to see some friends in Greensboro. And during that trip, I found out that a friend of mine had committed suicide by just driving off into the Appalachian Mountains, parking their car, walking up into the woods, and nobody even found him until months later.
Oh, wow.
But because there was so much else that was heavy happening at the same time, I remember when I came back to Richmond, it was just, I won't even say that I was wanting to end my life. I just didn't know what to do. I had no hope for the next day. And I literally hid in a closet. I'm smiling a little if you're looking at me on camera, if only because, golly, that feels so on the nose. Like, couldn't I have done something besides been actually literally in the closet? But anyway, I digress. And I didn't go to work. I was just trying to... I could not figure out the puzzle of how to go forward when it seemed so much awful was happening around me, that I had friends who couldn't see a way forward. And I didn't know how to do that myself. And I still couldn't even talk about who this person was. We were still 2.5 decades away from that.
Now, mind you, therapy wasn't popular back then.
That's right. And what would I tell them?
That's right.
Because I didn't even know how to describe this person. I thought I would have been laughed out or committed or, whatever. And so I just remember that what I told myself as I got through that moment and that physical and figurative space was I promised myself that I would never let myself get to a place of that type of hopelessness again. And flash cut forward to when I'm 49, about to turn 50, end of 2019, beginning of 2020, and I did have a therapist by this point. I'd been seeing for a while. We had been dancing around this issue. I still wanted to be able to talk about it even in that space in this positive way that I've been describing. And finally, one day my therapist just looked at me and said, I don't even think it was a therapeutic question. She was just trying to ask a pragmatic question, so how do you actually see yourself living this out? And before she even finished, I waved my hand back and forth at myself and I said, why? Why would I? What hope is there in this? Waving back and forth at myself. And I realized in that moment that I was closer to that place of hopelessness than I had been in 25 years. And before I reached the end of the driveway at the end of that session, I remember parking at the end of the driveway, and I could turn left or turn right. It was like a T intersection at the end of the driveway. And I just realized the time is now.
Right.
I can't maintain this disguise anymore. It's driving me. The weight is too much. Whatever language I have to claim who I am, the time is now to use it, to deploy it, and to shake this weight off of my shoulders so that I can proudly be who I am. And from that point to this is where our paths start to overlap, quite frankly.
Right. And what I hear amongst my friends is this a lack of knowledge. Okay. The majority of my friends some of their children have come out as gay and gay and lesbian, and they are researching to make the conversation a part of their daily life. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to say anything wrong or that they could push them away. They're still trying to figure it out because I think the great thing about being in this era that we're in, that is accepted to be who you are. Okay. You are fine to be who you are. And I think these conversations are going to help somebody. Okay. And so let's go just a little bit. I'm going to push back just a little bit.
Yeah, please.
So now it's the let's say the mid 90s now. Let's fast forward a little bit. So where are you now? You're getting confidence. You had the hurdle of mental instability. You decided to say, you know what? I'm going to be who I am, damn anybody else. Where did that courage come from in that moment?
Well, I have to say, actually, I want to be able to take the laurels that you're giving me, but that early on, I really didn't have that confidence yet.
Okay.
When I came out of that moment in Richmond, for example,
right.
It was like, all right, I'm just going to figure out how to make this work as this disguised,
right.
not fully me self, right? Luckily, in the midst of all that, I met the person who is still my spouse now. We've been together since we met in the summer of '95. We're still together now, so we're approaching 31 years together, 29 years married this coming September.
I've been divorced twice, so I'm wrong. Whoa, 29 years, man. 31, you said 29 years?
Yeah, be 29 years married in September.
Wow, that's big.
So, but luckily I was able to meet somebody who, even though I was not forthcoming with them about this self, but again, I feel an immense amount of guilt about that. I can never undo it. The only thing I can point back to is to say, I wouldn't know what to have said to her.
Right.
I've got this feeling. Well, what's the feeling? I don't know. I just don't feel at home in my body.
Right.
What do you mean you don't feel at home in your own body? That doesn't even make any sense. Yeah, I agree with you. It doesn't make any sense. But I've felt this way for literally, even by my late 20s, it had been almost a couple of decades, right, by this point. I don't know what to tell you. And again, because we didn't have the language to go any further than that, it didn't feel like a conversation to even have, because it just felt like it would be totally circular and then just make things even more confusing.
Right.
I'm not saying I made the right decision. There's 10,000 other ways that 10,000 other people could have handled that. But luckily, in meeting her, we've had a ton of other challenges and gifts along the way, but we found a way to navigate that ourselves. But to your initial question, it was more like, okay, I'm going to hunker down and be this person that everybody else thinks that I am, and try to figure out a way that I can be happy enough, survive enough. Some days it just felt like survive enough to the next day. Hoping that I would get to a safe shore at some point down the road of being able to say something more positive and more openly about myself.
Wow. That's a lot to take in, just the first 26 years of life or 30 years of life. Are you in therapy now?
Yeah, still am.
Awesome.
I think everybody should be.
I agree with that.
I can't remember if we caught this at the beginning or not, but my primary work is doing grief and bereavement support for folks. And the amount of folks that I talk with trying to deal with big losses and changes in their life, who could have better tools available to them in these moments of big loss if they had been in therapy.
Right.
I can't recommend it enough. We should all be in therapy. We should all, even if we don't like to use the word therapy, we should all have somebody who is kind of the paying for it is to actually make sure that we've got somebody who's kind of neutral in our lives, that we can share folks with, that we can test ideas with, that we can try out the tough conversation that maybe we need to have with somebody else with,
Right.
that they get where that person is there to be that rehearsal space and that exploration space. And yeah,
But the hard part is finding that person.
you ain't lying.
I've made the awesome choice to try to confide in certain people, and they was like a deer in the headlight. So it made me feel even worse.
Yeah.
So trying to find a therapist, you got to find the right one, and you may go through 3 or 4
That's
before
right.
you find that one.
That's right.
Just trying to confine. I got some good friends now at 55. I got some people that I can talk to, but boy, going through a divorce early on in my 30s, and then a divorce again. I can recall the conversation when I was hurting bad and tried to confide in one of my friends, and it was like, man, get over that shit. That's the wrong thing I need to hear.
Yeah.
And so it's trial and error.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And so let's talk about your advocacy.
Okay.
Okay. What sparked that energy to want to help people that had the same type of feelings that you had?
I have to say it goes back to that history that I was learning from, even from those early teenage years. That same time around which I was trying to figure out how to live with this self, that I was having this experience of finding out about how to talk about our spiritual selves in this both sort of spirit-filled and utterly embodied way. It was right around the same time that I had the opportunity to go to the 20th anniversary of the March on Washington back in '83. I have a copy of the autobiography of Malcolm X that I'd taken off my mom's bookshelf and started reading when I was like 10 or 11. I was fascinated with Gandhi and Martin Luther King, about those social movements from a really young age. I mean, I'm 56 now, and I say this, and it feels like I'm spinning a story about myself. But seriously, that copy of Malcolm X's autobiography is so worn, but so important to me that I've got the pieces of it in a plastic bag on the top shelf of my bookcase so that it doesn't get messed up anymore, right? So seeing the way that people can have this huge, critical impact on how they are understood and treated by the rest of the world. I mean, these were the formative lessons I was learning at 10, at 11, at 12, as I was trying to figure out about this self who I could see through all the cultural signs and the jokes and the beatings and the lives that were ended. And at the same time, learning about these other social movements where folks were finding ways to demonstrate not just the realness, but the giftedness of their life among us. I had always wanted to put more energy, more intentional effort into doing those things throughout my adult life. But I was so scared of being out or being outhead ahead of my own schedule that I kept on pulling back on my own reins.
Right. But I do believe you should be able to come out when you want to.
Well, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and not to be forced out.
Right. No. Oh, 100%. Pro tip number 1, whether it's your trans or gay friend or somebody else whether it's, you and I met because of Rowan's disability. Honestly, Rowan should be able to tell his own story about his own, right? I shouldn't be the one putting on that blast. He should be able to kind of determine what he feels is important for his own story. Right. So pro tip number 1, give people the space to tell their own stories about themselves so that they can start helping define for others how they want to be understood and how they want to operate in the world. But my only point there was that that I wanted to be able to do all those advocacy things, but I was so scared by this world that still felt so full of threat around this life I was tenuously holding on to, right? Around this precarious life that I built up with my spouse and then our child, that I didn't want to put myself in danger. This is a feeling I had, this is an instinct, a reflex I had been honing for 4 decades by this point. But I knew that I wanted to be able to do that thing. So once I shrugged off everything else, once I started being this person, I was like, well, I don't have anything to hide behind anymore. I don't have anything to pull my own reins back on anymore. Right. So I might as well take this energy that I realize that I now have from not hiding all the time and use it to help folks, to use it to help advance the rights and lives in the ways that I had learned about and seen demonstrated at demonstrations and elsewhere from the time I was 10 and 11 and 12. And so I just, honestly, it was kind of crazy because this was all happening I started coming out just before COVID at the end of 19 into the beginning of 20. And then, of course, the world shut down. But then the moment the world came back open, boy, I was ready to go. Right. I was ready to go. And so I just came out, I won't say with guns blazing. I came out with an overabundance of energy and desire to help folks, any and all folks, be able to claim the fullness, the authenticity, and the giftedness who they are, whoever, wherever, and however they are in the world.
That, I think some of the parents needed to hear that may be struggling with their son or daughter who's trying to figure themselves out. That, it's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world, okay? What I've seen from some of my friends initially was just some anxiety, not knowing. Yeah. Because they love their children so much, they don't want their children to be attacked. Or
that's right.
They don't want their children to bump their head and not go through some tough times. You know what I mean?
That's right.
But I think now it's, from what I've seen, is much safer. The United States is not the greatest place in the world, not the worst, okay? But I think with support, with a great level of understanding, with research, I think the transition can be okay.
I'd say that Tennessee poses some unique challenges to that sense of safety. I remember the very first committee meeting that I was in was back in, the first time I went into Cordell Hall, which is where all the committee rooms and all that stuff are downtown. And the first thing it was like a higher education subcommittee hearing or something like that. And they had some bill that was banning critical race theory teaching, or whatever they had vilified and stereotyped critical race theory to be, which wasn't anything like it actually was. So they passed that out of committee. So banning, trying to get a better understanding of who we are in the world, what role race plays, and all of that. And then at the end of the very same meeting, they talk piously about how the state of public discourse and conversation is really on the decline in this state. And so we need to set up an institute for civics at the University of Tennessee. Right. And the whole time I was thinking, how do they expect us to stay civil when then they won't even allow us in their civics? Right. And so I would say that Tennessee poses some challenges to that safety because we have folks in some real positions of power that are going out of their way to make life hard for folks. At the same time, I will say that especially here in Middle Tennessee, for example, we do have the benefit of having things like PFLAG,
Okay.
which is for parents and family, lesbian and gay and
Okay.
trans and queer children. So it's a place for them to be able to sound these things out, to kind of go on this journey of
Right.
learning things with
Right.
other parents who are going through the same thing. A lot of great PFLAG chapters here in the mid-state. We have groups like Healing in the Margins, which is committed to providing therapy resources for BIPOC and LGBTQIA plus folks. We have the Black Mental Health Collective, which is based over here in North Nashville as well. We have a lot of amazing resources right here in our own backyard to help parents and to help children, to help whoever really try to navigate whatever challenges. So to your point, to both of our points, I'd say there are some unique challenges and hard stuff to work through that this state uniquely presents. But in this area, we have some unique gifts and safe spaces that for a lot of other folks may be really hard to find.
Got it. And so lastly, because I want to have you back, okay? This is just scratching the tip of the iceberg.
That's right.
Scratching the surface.
Scratching the
So now you are an advocate, and where do you see this advocacy going within the next 5 to 10 years? Because it seems like I've done some research, and it seems like you are the head of that. You are waving the flag for, hey, you can be who you want to be. We're not going to stand for any type of injustice. You've been on Capitol Hill. You've been on television. You've been on other podcasts. And so when I saw you, I was talking to Dr. Ali. She's my board there.
Yeah.
And so she said, hey, maybe you should try Mr. Johnson. I said, well, I don't know. Let me do some research. I was impressed because you're fearless, okay? The anxiety that you once had, you no longer have it anymore. So that kind of shows, the strength you gave. And once you don't care what people say, who gives a fuck anymore? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's hard not to care because we are loving people. We are children of God, so we are compassionate. On the flip side, we have to have that level of, I don't care. So where do you see your advocacy going within the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, boy. I don't know. I mean, I've got hopes and dreams.
Hey, listen, we're dreamers.
I've got goal horizons.
Okay.
Most importantly, whatever I'm doing, I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can, that people's voices stay central to their own stories.
Yes.
So whoever, however, and wherever you are in the world, for me, the most important thing, learning from my own experience, learning through the history, the experience, the wisdom of the many different communities all over the place that I've had the experience to be with, is that we all deserve our own voice and our own story. So I want to advocate. I want to continue to advocate for that in whatever space, in whatever way I can, which is what attracted me to the work, for example, of the Metro Human Relations Commission when I was given the opportunity to join them. This is the body that works towards anti-discrimination, towards a more cohesive community, a community that's more appreciative of the gifts of each other on the daily. That's the work that we do there. But I also want to make sure that I continue the advocacy that I do, for example, down in Cordell Hall in the state capitol, where we're pushing back, not just to push back for pushing back's sake, but it's really like we've got folks who stand out in Legislative Plaza and who protest, and I've been part of those too, because sometimes you've got to be on the outside pulling spaces open to make sure that there's space for all of us. And then there's other times that there's work to be done on being in the hallways and trying to push from the inside out as much as possible, or I don't know, I was just thinking about a Star Wars image, right? When they're caught down in the trash compactor
Yes.
and they're trying to hold the walls in by putting the big pieces of metal between one wall and the other to try to preserve as much space for themselves as possible. That's what advocacy is sometimes. It's pulling spaces open to allow for more folks to be their authentic selves, whoever you are. And then there are other times when the work is being on the inside of a place and trying to push from the inside to also create that space. It's the same work, just going about it a different way.
Right.
And that for me is the primary thing. And I hope my energy and real drive for that comes through at least a little. And then I will end this part with this hope. This hinting hope.
Okay.
That just say, I didn't plan then, and I don't plan now for that time that I spoke from the floor of the Tennessee House to be the one and only time that I have an opportunity to do that.
Hey, this has been good. This has been good. And it's good because, I'm learning as I go. I want to be fair to everyone. I want to treat everyone with respect and understanding. I want to use the proper pronouns. We have a training before school starts. Each year, each school has it about learning the pronouns because, hey, you know what? You don't want to be disrespectful to the kids, but also knowing who they are and where they are allows you a gateway to who they are, and they will be more forthcoming, more honest, more approachable, and you may make a friend, at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? And so children love to learn from teachers and caretakers who care about them.
Okay, I know that we were actually trying to get a wrap-up point, but this is so important. It's so timely. It won't be timely by the time this airs. But because we're having this conversation right now when we are, I will just say, you are so exactly right. And there was a counselor that used to work at Nashville School of the Arts who's gone on to school somewhere else, who came down and testified a couple of years ago when the state was considering a law that allowed teachers to ignore the preferred names, to ignore the pronouns that a student was requesting teachers or staff to use for other students to use, saying that was a First Amendment speech right.
Right.
And the counselor from NSA made the outstanding point that how does this work if there's not trust and care between us? If a student doesn't feel like they're being respected, why would they respect me back?
Right.
And once we're at that place, what positive or productive thing is going to be accomplished at that point? This is a matter, again, how do they expect us to be civil when they won't allow us in their civics, right? If you're not going to be civil to me or about me, what do we expect in return? And then we say, oh, the classroom is dissolving and nobody pays attention or cares about anything more. When you're actually creating the structure and allowing folks permission to tear down the very thing that you supposedly are advocating for. That counselor had it right on the money by saying, if we're not in this to try to create trust and good relationship with each other, then the whole thing falls apart. And that's important because this coming week, I just found out earlier this morning, looks like I'm going to be testifying about an amended version of that law that not only allows teachers and staff for students to disregard what a student or even staff member says is their preferred name or their preferred pronouns at the secondary school level, at the higher education level, and also within any state agency or organization, because it says any state employee has the right to ignore those things as well too. So let's say you wanted to be called Dave instead David, and they could say, well, it says David on your birth certificate, so I'm only going to call you David from now on. They could do that. And on top of that, that was already law. What they're adding is that they won't even allow, that they will allow folks to ignore what are called honorifics. So let's say you're in your high school German class, right, or whatever, and that person actually happens to have a doctorate. You don't have to call it. If this law passes, you wouldn't have to call them doctor anymore. If you were in a college class and you had a professor, you could call, and they were, let's say, a trans female person.
Right.
Not only would you not have to call them Ms., you wouldn't even have to call them professor. You could call me Mr. Johnson.
Wow.
In the classroom. And so you raising that point about that training demonstrates the type of trust and community and relationship that school is trying to maintain, even in the face of, to go back to what I was saying before, a state that is being openly hostile to that very idea, and in turn making an even more hostile and unwelcoming classroom for all of us.
There it is. Shout out to NSA. New to me again. For I think the first year it was online, and then we had to go into the school, and then it was a shock. I had no idea, and I consistently the first 6 months was calling, it was bad. It was bad, and then it was bad, and then they start having training. Okay, that's what I did wrong. Okay, now I get it. I got better, did my research, and so I'm 10 times better than what I was. But I'm glad I had that training, because I never, ever, ever, ever want to disrespect someone and make them feel like they don't belong. That's not fair.
I feel the same way, and I hope that at any point, whether it's in this conversation, low-key conversations we're having by text, or any future time that we may or may not be at the high table, that you feel the same right and ability to do that to me as well. Because I don't want to disrespect you, don't want to disrespect your listeners, and I want to, again, my goal is folks being able to claim the fullness of who they are. And
Absolutely.
so I hope that you and we my hope is that we do that with honesty and genuineness and grace.
Absolutely. Hey, we're going to end right here. And this is a good conversation. A couple hand claps, nothing. No, I gotta press this. Go ahead and press it right here, Dan.
My goodness!
Yeah, you get to press it. You get to press it.
Is it the sad trombones?
That's it.
We're gonna go out on sad trombones. I'm gonna riff it though. If I know where the soundboard is now.
That's it. But
there's the applause that we truly deserve.
Yes. So we're going to leave on that note. I want to thank Brother Johnson.
Who?
Brother Johnson.
Who?
Brother. Sorry. Damn it.
Say my name.
Say my name. See, I still got work to do. Okay?
Oh, my goodness.
See, now.
See, and you can, and here's the other thing, too, that I will say this, I'm not throwing shade at all. That I'll say that, like, this whole honorifics things is so silly, because that gives folks an easy out. Professor isn't gendered. Doctor isn't gendered.
Exactly.
Chaplain isn't gendered. Commissioner isn't gendered. Right? If you just want to default back to one of the things that doesn't even have gender attached to it, then you're probably going to do okay with somebody anyway.
Let's try this again.
All right.
Okay? Because I deserve the sad trombones. Okay? Listen,
zip. Rewind.
This is season 2 of the Hot Table, and this probably was this was an important guest here, because this is a topic that I've been wanting to have, and especially with what's going on in this country. We need a lot of understanding, on both sides of this, on both sides of the road, both sides of the line. And so I'm glad Dahron Johnson was here. And she came through and gave us a lot. See, I'm getting better just that fast. And she came through and gave us a lot of knowledge. I want to stop it because I didn't want to overload you guys with
Right.
the information that she has. So she's going to come back and give us the second half of her life and where she is now. And we talked a little bit about her goals and stuff, but
right.
but it's much deeper than that. Okay,
We're gonna keep on riffing.
we're gonna keep it. Got a freestyle. So this is season 2 of the High Table. Hey guys, thank you for supporting the channel. I'm going to have other interesting guests. And so we're going to take it as far as God wants us to go. And so thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.